If you're in a long distance international relationship with someone outside of the United States and you're fed up and finally want to petition for your significant other as either your fiance or your spouse, listen up. I know it can be very confusing to figure out whether or not you should proceed with a fiancé visa or if you should go ahead and do a spousal visa. So I want to talk about some of the differences between the two. The fiancé visa, you may or may not have seen 90 Day Fiancé, but that is the visa that is used on the show. Essentially, you are petitioning for your significant other with the intention to marry once they are in the US. Now, it was first introduced as a way to kind of speed up the process. However, nowadays it isn't really faster. In some cases can even take longer than the spousal-based petition. However, if it's not feasible for you to get married abroad before filing for your significant other, then the fiancé visa is really going to be your only choice. With the fiancé visa, you have exactly 90 days to get married. So they're approving you based on the bona fide of the relationship. They're saying, hey, we believe this is a real relationship. So come in, prove it, right? And then once you get married, you can file for the green card. You don't need to file for the green card within the 90 days, but you do need to get married within those 90 days. A big kind of con to the fiancé visa is that when your significant other, fiancé, arrives in the United States, they are not able to work, nor are they able to travel. You need to do the green card adjustment of status in order to get perhaps a work authorization in the meantime and even a travel authorization, which we don't know if those are still going to be issued as freely under this administration. But it isn't until they're a permanent resident that they can really kind of travel more freely. On the other hand, if you get married abroad and you do the spousal petition, in other words, you're already married, you marry in your spouse's home country or in a third country, or even in the US if they're here on a visit and then they go back, and then you petition for them as your spouse, then in that case, you're going through the process for them to enter as permanent residents. At this point, they're evaluating not just the bona fides, but also like the economic and financial requirements for you to sponsor your spouse. They'll go to the interview, and upon approval, they will enter immediately as a green card holder, as a permanent resident. So they can pretty much work and travel almost immediately. It takes a few weeks to get that green card in the mail, but other than that, they are free to kind of move about with ease. And that is the biggest difference, is that they can travel and work almost immediately. However, if traveling and working is not important, and if getting married is just going to prolong or delay the process, then maybe the fiancé visa is better for you. If you have questions, feel free to schedule a consult. I love doing these types of consultations to really work through couples to figure out what their priorities are, what's most important for them, and then figuring out which avenue is the best avenue to take.